Well, hello, and welcome to the Red Couch Theology podcast, where we're live.
Good afternoon.
I think we're live. I actually don't know how to run a podcast.
We're going to trust you.
So I'm here with Diego and with Sean for a little bonus episode, and here's why. Here's what's going on with the bonus episode. Is we've been sort of commandeered the podcast during this season for Alpha more than for the sermons, and so we're also going to have our normal show tomorrow. But I didn't want to miss an opportunity to chat with Diego because he preached on Sunday, and then I think you're flying out tomorrow, right?
Yes, tomorrow morning.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad you were able to hop on with us and have a little bit of a conversation. So let's just start briefly about. Can you guys just tell? You told some of the story a little bit on Sunday, but for those who weren't here Sunday, can you tell the story of how you guys got to know each other, how your connection to South Now, and so on and so forth?
I'll let you start.
Okay, I will tell my story.
Okay, tell your story.
and then you can correct him? No.
Well, he will agree. Yeah. Well, actually, we have a similar experience between churches when Sean and I were like 16, 17. So there's a bunch of students from a church here in Colorado who visit us in our church in Costa Rica for kind of a similar program that we're already making here with the students of South. So in that time, Sean didn't know how to speak any Spanish still.
Still don't.
And for me,
a hard time.
Yeah, for me it's the same. I didn't know any English. So we were just kind of meet together and we participate in the program. And I think kind of for both sides was kind of something that challenges just to grow and or walking in the Christ and growing and maturing in our faith. And since that time, we kind of continue back and forward a little bit. I remember, Sean, when you were almost getting married, you write me, and I don't even know, probably was an email because social media wasn't kind of a big thing. Yeah. So we kind of been doing this, connecting through the years, learning, also growing, and now also with our families, also growing together with the kids. So it's been kind of a interesting and a blessing experience for me to have this friendship, which is a long distance in between us, but it's still like we can just see each other and just catch where we were last time. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, just to fill in a couple of...
I'm just going to fix the camera while you guys talk because I broke it.
Sounds good. Should I keep talking?
Keep going.
Okay. To fill in a couple of like other components of that. So when we met in high school, their group was able to come here to Colorado in the same form and fashion that we brought the Nexo students up to live alongside us, serve alongside us, yes, and love our community alongside our students as well. And then Diego and I actually had an opportunity to help run some of these trips coming out of university. I did one. Diego was involved in the ministry for a long time. And I actually got really sick when I was down there and had to stay in Diego's apartment for several days in order to...
Almost the entire trip, you were really sick.
Yeah.
So he joined us by the end, just like for the final picture in the church.
I was there for more than the final picture, but really through that we developed a closeness, a relationship, and we were going through different seasons of our lives together. So Diego mentioned kind of writing him and letting him know that Melody and I were engaged and kind of being able to share in that news. We got married at similar times. Actually, Diego and Wynn were married prior to us. And then we began having children at similar times. Jackson falls right in between Diego's oldest two, and then Shepard and Felipe are actually 14 days apart. I remember calling Diego to let him know that Melody was pregnant with Shepard, and he was like, dude, you've got to be kidding me. I was just about to reach out to you and let you know that we were pregnant as well. So it's just been really cool that we've been able to go through these different seasons together, catch up, and have conversations about what it means to be fathers, what it means to be husbands, etc. And Diego is actually probably the first person that I called when I was considering joining the team here at South, just to let him know, ask him to be praying for me and my family as we made these decisions. And then the day that I started here, I called Diego and I said, hey, should we reboot Fusion and bring our students together?
That's awesome.
And I think he thought I was a little crazy in that moment for a whole host of different reasons. But it's just been this beautiful thing that we've been able to do together.
That's awesome. So we will get to the sermon in just a little bit, but I was curious if you could just talk about what took place this last summer and then what took place a couple weeks ago with this concept of fusion. Are you guys calling it fusion again, or just is it sort of?
I think for the sake of like, that was, it was funny. We actually showed up in Costa Rica and they're like, hey, fusion. And we were like, our students looked at each other kind of scratching their heads saying like, what are they saying and why? But that was the name. Fusion was the name of the project when we were students. And so they had been calling that. And so now we've just really kind of adopted it because it truly is a fusion of our communities living alongside each other. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole thing, the main point of this fusion is how we can put these two group of students and to challenge them and to understand who is Christ and how we can follow him and make disciples. It's two things, that how we can make disciples or how we can be disciples and also how we can make disciples.
Yeah.
So it's a program who put this group of people together in order to intentional relationships that can come closer and to figure it out that even we will live in different countries with such a different cultures and a lot of differences, we are following the same Christ and we are passionate about it. So we try to put this idea to stay together, learn together, grow together, but also challenge each other to make disciples, because kind of our final goal is just to see a multiplication among your students and also ours in Costa Rica. So it's kind of the idea. So there's a lot of things happening. And actually kind of Sean and I, sometimes we back too much in our schedule, which is kind of our mistake, but we continue doing it. So last July, we have experience of serving in a couple places in Costa Rica. We have through the nights training or equipment time through the same subject of how we can grow as disciples. And also we challenge our students and we plan together like a big outreach event. So we kind of have been doing the same thing that we did in July. We just did it a couple of weeks here. So the idea is to keep that going back and forward, trying to see some growing and trying to see some multiplication happening through the whole process.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really kind of this tangible representation of the universal church that we've talked about.
Yeah.
You know, Diego and Comunidad.Nexo and their students are growing as disciples, learning what it means to live in his way with his heart, just like we are here, following Christ. And so the coming together of our groups, that fusion, is really just how do we do that collectively together? So we are building relationships, doing discipleship training as Diego mentioned, and then walking alongside each other in our respective communities, us down there, them up here, as we serve our community, as we love our community as well. And then it all culminates kind of as through the discipleship training of making disciples too. So all culminating in this outreach event. So in Costa Rica, we had 2 days of it where this Nexo students were inviting their friends to an amusement park, and then like a big barbecue pool party that we hosted, where they just got to talk about their lives with Jesus and encounter Jesus in those ways, and hopefully be able to like establish those relationships in a more meaningful way with this kind of bolstering of the teams, you know, being there. And then here we did discipleship training. We worked on our school campuses, inviting people to this outreach event. And on a couple of Fridays ago, we had over 75-ish people. It's hard to count when everyone's dancing their heads off. And, you know, anywhere from like 20-ish first-time students on our campus where they could just feel welcomed and at home, and having conversations over dinner about like who the Nexo team was, our students and their friends being like, this is a place that is meaningful in my life, and if you have questions about Jesus. So it was kind of a sewing event in a lot of ways, but yeah.
That's awesome. And then it was fun having one of your students help lead worship the week prior, and we sang a little bit in Spanish, and it was just a beautiful time to kind of see the two congregations support the students and this effort. And it's just a beautiful example of what God's global church is. I love that. So, Yeah, talk a little bit about your invitation to preach. So Alex asked you to preach while you were here, and we were in the middle of a John series, and so like you were assigned a passage, like this is your passage. Good luck.
Yes,
how do you experience being assigned a text like that, and then maybe talk a little bit about the passage?
Yeah, well, it took me as a surprise because when you run a church, you are also wanted to protect the teaching. For every pastor is like who's going to teach and what is he's going to teach and all that. So it was a surprise for me that Alex wanted to open that opportunity to me. So I take it with a lot of honor. I mean, it seems to me like they have that trust. So I really appreciate about that.
Yeah.
And then just figure it out. The John chapter 11 is just such a huge chapter with a lot of theology in there, and also in a moment where Christ is facing the most aggressive in the resistance from Jewish people, especially the religious one. So it was a lot of challenge for me trying to communicate this idea that Jesus is facing his way to Jerusalem, where he's going to face death.
Yeah.
But at the same time, having this momentum with Lazarus. And so the whole thing, like the whole scene is huge. So it was a big challenge for me to just be there Sunday morning.
And your style of preaching, you were describing it to me earlier last week. You tend to maybe take slightly smaller chunks and then work through line by line. So you were just given this monster text with like theological implications and tons of text and stuff. And so, how'd you go about approaching that and thinking through that?
Yeah, well, actually in Comunidad Nexo in our church, we already are doing a series on the book of Luke. So we are going verse by verse. But as you say, we just take like as much of like 10 verses. Yeah. So we got like little pieces. It takes us a little while to go there. Yeah. But in a way, it's easier just to tackle some of their subject. So when you have such a big chapter, you must need to make a choice on whatever you wanted to point it out and try to connect the narrative and through the points that you for sure know you can conclude things and challenge the church. So it was a lot of reading, understanding where you want to highlight the things that is happening, and then how it will connect those things and putting in an application that makes sense. And I try my best.
You did great, man.
And
awesome.
In a lot of ways, this chapter 11 lent itself to actually being taught in this larger chunk, just being the story of Lazarus, actually, kind of like having that be told from beginning to end, because you're not like pausing in the midst of like this crescendo of the text and all of the implications that it had outside of the actual story. And the implications that it meant for kind of foreshadowing.
And actually, just by the end of the chapter, they change and to explain how the religious people started to make a plot in order to capture Jesus and all that. So that's the chunk that I didn't go in.
Which maybe we can cover a little bit of that today. But
because also connect with the context that I was trying to explain about how this hidden momentum is happening since the chapter 7, that Jesus was facing rejection and facing almost violence. People wanted to stone him a couple times before. So at the end of chapter 11, that thing shows again that is going to happen. And actually, I'm pretty sure that at some point, someone also want to kill again Lazarus, right?
Yeah, because that's in Alex's text this coming week. Yeah,
right. So it's interesting to see that tension happening,
which is crazy. I was joking with Alex about that. We were talking about this coming Sunday. I was like, don't they know that Jesus could just raise him again? I mean, if he's supposed to be alive, he's, they already have an example of.
They seemingly are missing something. So,
yeah, exactly.
To Diego's
this
point.
guy was risen from the dead, and you want to try and kill him again? Yeah. Okay. So you made a statement that I'd like to spend a little bit of time on, and I don't remember exactly how you worded it, but you put the climax of the narrative in a different place.
Right.
Than people expected. Could you, I've got the chapter here. I don't remember the exact verse.
25.
So is it 25?
Martha, well, starting in verse 24, when Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day.
Yeah.
Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life.
Yeah, I think my argument for that is that the whole Gospel of John is about believing and believing that he is the one. So Jesus is being performing these miracles. Probably this is the biggest one in a really heated moment. He has been doing disciples and all that. So he keeps saying like, you must believe that I am who I am and all that. And the response that Martha has in that verse is about, I know, I believe. So it's kind of the two most important things to figure it out in a book like John is if you understand who he is and then you respond in a way that you believe, it's done.
That's it. Yeah.
So what is interesting is then the miracle happened. And sometimes, and it's like, it could be a challenge for today's activities in the church and all that, because sometimes we can put so much of the effort into see the spectacular things or the supernatural things or supernatural things, but you lose the sense that, well, you must believe in him rather than the things that you expect him to do, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
I believe in him more than the things that I desire him to do in my life. It's kind of if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it was interesting. It jumped out to me because we are doing Alpha right now. And for those of us those out there who are listeners know that we're going to be tracking that. But in the week 1 of Alpha at my table, I shared some stories about my own doubts about faith, some of the seasons that I've doubted.
Right.
And I also told them I have no excuse to doubt because I grew up overseas where we saw supernatural healing, supernatural experiences with demons and all this stuff. And I should, of all people, believe that the supernatural things are real and that Christianity is real because of some of the things my parents experienced and that I observed. And yet I still tend to run into doubt sometimes. And so
we should just kill Lazarus again.
Yeah.
You know, like we were just kind of like making a little fun of the Pharisees who were like saying those things, but then we have so many different experiences in our own life where we experience God moving, we encounter Jesus in these ways, but there's something about our humanity and our expectations or the half-life of remembering, you know, God's moving in those ways that we're just like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And I think I loved the fact that you pointed out, especially for John, like this is definitely John's main point.
Yeah.
Is that the resurrection of Lazarus is miraculous. Great. But it's meaningless unless it gets you to Jesus.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And brings you to the heart of Jesus and to understand who he is. And I don't know, it was just a moment in the message that I felt like really resonated for me. And I love that. And I tend to agree because John is so consistent, you know, he's so consistent that this is the main agenda. I want you all the miracles, and he shows sign 1, sign 2, sign 3, sign 4, sign all the way since the turning water into wine. Yes, it's evidence, but if it doesn't get you to Jesus, man.
Yeah. The other thing is in verse 25, he says, I am the resurrection. So when you figure it out, the other I am is just like natural things that you can kind of easily comprehend. It's like, I am the water, I am the bread, I am this. But then the resurrection is kind of a huge concept compared to the I am the shepherd. Shepherd, you know. Yeah. So is this statement, I am the resurrection and the life, is huge. So it seems unfair that you will point it out more the resurrection than the whole thing that he's trying to save. That is, he's beyond that. He's beyond life. He's life himself. He's the true. So yeah, for me, it's kind of a 25 is for sure the highlight in that segment.
That's awesome. Yeah. So maybe could you talk to me a little bit about going back to the concept of the global church? So here you've been asked to preach in a different language to a congregation in a completely different context. Can you maybe describe your sort of prayer dialogue and your reading of the scriptures, and you're preparing a sermon for a context that's less familiar, in a language that's less familiar? Like, what was your prayer life preparing for this, asking? You talked about it in the intro a little bit. I'm just praying that the Holy Spirit would move. Can you maybe describe that journey you did in your relationship with Jesus, specifically to get to a message?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Well, when you have a passage like that, you already have a lot of things in your mind.
Yeah.
Which kind of is a tricky thing to have as a preacher, because we should just go to the text and just do our thing without putting our own thoughts, even when we have a lot of things, because we've been reading and studying this for a long time. But the things, all that happened to me in Spanish. I already have these theological concepts. I already have these things that I've been, underlining and study for years and years and years. So the big challenge is how to go to the text without my own concepts, but also to the English text. You know what I'm saying? So I try to pull myself into reading the text and study the text from the English. That was my first kind of approach. Because even our versions of the Bible, which is interesting because in our church we use NIV too, so it was kind of an easy thing to switch. So I did a study in English, but again, when I was writing it down, I was writing in Spanish.
Oh man!
So in a point, and I told Sean, like, okay, I need to stop this because I'm being for almost 3 weeks going back and forward in my notes, because I was writing my notes in Spanish. And then when I finish, kind of putting the translator, and then having this another English notes.
Yeah.
But then I said it again. Probably you experience this when you have your sermon prepared. It's like you go over again. You keep refining, and you keep figuring it out and putting words and put some others.
Yeah.
And I was doing this, so I got to stop it.
So you wrote the sermon twice.
Yeah,
once in Spanish,
in a couple of sermons, I would say I have like probably 3 versions of how I wanted to share this. So it was kind of a tiring process actually to do it, but I enjoy it because in the end, this is the key: is I know I am not qualified for what I did. I'm from the start. I will say I'm not the man to do this, but I have the opportunity. And I have the conviction that if you faithfully teach the word, he will speak by the Spirit. So my main prayer at the beginning is hopefully the Spirit will do whatever he wants to do besides my limitations to speak English, right?
Yeah.
So I have already that in my mind. So I just put aside my fear and my questioning if I can able to do that, because in the beginning is long. In the beginning, it was clear that I'm not. But I just enjoyed the process. I was quite nervous. I end up doing something that I'm familiar with, is going verse by verse and trying to see what things are there that are obvious. So, and then how I can connect it in order to invite the people to follow me into the verses and then going to the conclusions. And the other things that I usually do is try not to come out with too risky applications. Sometimes people wanted to go and just stretch that much the verse that is like, well, it's kind of a say that, but you added a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I just go plain into what I think is easily to conclude. That for me is Jesus invited us to believe beyond the fear of death.
Yeah.
The idea that he already called us from death because we were all dead. So it's kind of more than a natural experience. It's a spiritual thing you've been already experienced. And one of my points is, well, if you're not sure about this in your life, well, maybe today is a day that God is calling you and whisper your name while you're listening to this.
Yeah.
In the end, the whole idea that you must believe, you must trust, and you must hope in him, and also in him, in his promises, and also the resurrection, in order to live beyond that.
Yeah.
And the final thing was just to be brave to tell the story all and over again to people who is near to us. Because I also connect that idea that Jesus was facing the most and more growing tension against him, but he kept doing what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And also what the Father tell him to do. Because one of the passages says, I know that you always listen to me.
Yeah.
Where it makes sense that Jesus didn't do this just because he has the idea, but also because he wanted to obey. It was God, the Father's idea.
Yeah.
Probably Jesus, I don't know, I'm just here I'm going to make something like in the line, like probably Jesus wanted to go before he did, you know? Just when Martha and Mary
First made it known.
Yeah. Maybe he wanted to run.
Yeah.
But probably he didn't because the Father told him, like, I'm going to do this, but not now. A couple of days, you will go there and I will receive the glory when you perform this miracle.
Okay, so, all right, there's the message you gave on Sunday, and I'd encourage you to go check it out because it was powerful. I ran into a couple different congregation members, and they knew I was gone because I wasn't in the room. I listened online, and they're like, "Oh man, it was so great." And then I had a couple people. The one in particular, I just walked past her, and she said, "Oh, did you have a good Sunday off?" Oh, I'm still really just rocked by that message. It just really was powerful for me.
Yeah, and I heard so many people too. You said you wanted the Holy Spirit to just speak through you and to be faithful in that. And I've had no less than half a dozen, or if not more, people be like, it was clear. I understood the Holy Spirit was working through you, like confirmation in that, which was really beautiful.
Yeah. So, so the message you gave, and yeah, if you haven't listened to it, check it out. It's on YouTube to check out. But you just gave us another message in this episode, and here's what I'm hearing, and I'd like maybe you to offer some pastoral thoughts to people out there with doubts that they're qualified. You felt this doubt that I gotta preach in English. I got to do this gigantic text. I'm tired because I'm trying to lead students every night. I have probably very little prep time, like layer upon layer of reasons why you couldn't be sufficient in and of your own strength. Maybe talk to the person out there listening who's like, yep, that's me. I believe in Jesus, but I could never participate in bringing his kingdom because I'm not qualified. Yeah. Could you offer some thoughts for those people?
I guess my way of thinking, sometimes I just put a concept or an argue into the extreme.
Okay.
So my thinking, my thoughts in here is like, well, I'm able to face whatever God's life will bring to my life without depending on him. And for sure that is impossible, right? And one example of that is actually facing death. It's something that no one else can do. We all, we cannot choose not to go to that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So my understanding of the gospel is like actually gospel. What one of the things that does is pointed out that all of us are not qualified.
Yeah.
So one powerful thing the gospel does is like, you're out, you cannot. It's like, make sure that everyone understands that it's not possible in our own way to present ourselves in front of God. You know what I'm saying? So the gospel actually what does is point it out everyone and says, you cannot. Yeah. But at the same time, the same gospel says, this is the one who can. So if you trust in that one that he can, no matter your limitation, because it's in him and by him and for him. So I think from the beginning for me, it's easy to understand the gospel is something that pointed out and reject us in that, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, for me is that idea that once that you understand and you humbly understand that I'm not able to be at front of God and be like accepted just for my own deeds and my own, my own
effort
works or whatever, you are next to accept Jesus and say, well, he will perform. He will introduce me to the Father rather than trying to do my effort. So actually, this is my simple way to understand and explain kind of what the gospel does for us.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to get there in John, but abide in me. Apart from me, you can do nothing, right?
Yeah.
But you kind of shared some more story with me as it related to your dad that I think kind of intertwines with this. Tell us a little bit more about the moment where you began to actually pursue your father in those 2 years, and what was the lead up to that? Because I think that was a recognition where it was far away from you yourself doing it, but the Holy Spirit and God kind of working through you and being a part of that process.
Yeah. As I tell the story, kind of, my father he left our house when I was 16, 17. And he left without leaving a trace, like no phone calls, no any economical support for our family. He left totally. He was a struggle with drug abuse in like many ways. So the only thing that I knew is he was living with my grandmother, his mother.
Yeah.
So during that time, kind of we disconnect from that. And my mom, my mother, and my siblings and I, we just make our life and try to make it work. So I was growing in as a disciple. I was serving in the music in my church and just learning. And actually, when I was 19, I started to have my first study with disciples. So when I was 19, I already started to make disciples one-on-one, and it's like in small meetings and all that. And I think 1920, I felt like I get it. This is the gospel. It's something that you live, you understand, you share, and you accompany people walking through this. And I was like, I love it. And when I was 19, I already was considering just work full time in the ministry.
Yeah.
So by the 20, I was connected with Sun Life, this organization who do these mission trips and fusion trips and all that. And I've been just being happy, with my family, doing that and doing disciples and all that. And in that moment came to me a conviction that it was kind of weird. This conviction of this thought is, how is it possible that you are such a good Christian, but you don't want to forgive your father? Which was a thing that it was like, well, is that my thought? Is someone else's thought? Is this Holy Spirit challenge me? And I remember for a period of time, this currently comes to my mind. So I didn't wanted to do it, but in the end, it feels like God was challenging me to go and find my father and have some conversation with him.
Yeah.
Which was a fight, like a struggle with me, because it's like, how in the world I am the one that need to do that? Why not him coming to me? You know what I'm saying? The normal way to do it. So I decide that I should give it a chance to the Holy Spirit. So I figured it out and called my father and tried to tell him, well, I'm going to San Jose town every Friday or Thursday night. What if we can have a dinner and we can talk? So I just to make an appointment with him because I was traveling to my university in that time. So he said yes, but for three moments, for three chances in a row, he didn't show up. I was there.
Wow.
I took the bus and I drive the bus for 35 minutes, 40 minutes to San Jose. I wait in our Central Park where we have a photo fusion with your students. And I wait and I was mad more than anything and angry because it's like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. This is not my idea. I'm wasting. I felt like I wasted my time and my energy. And I also felt like it was an act of humiliation for me.
It was humiliating. Yeah.
Humiliating for me. Yeah. And I was, so I wait for 20, half hour. For some dumb reason, I wait probably more than an hour and just turn back, put myself in a bus back to my home. And when I was driving back my home, I was crying but it was pure anger. I was not suffering like poor me or anything, like just anger, because I thought like, this is not a good idea. I don't like it. Doesn't make any sense. And obviously my father doesn't have any interest in this. But I did it like a couple times. And by the third or fourth, he showed up. And the first time that he showed up, actually, I told Sean, like, he was kind of a high.
Yeah.
It kind of a mess up. It was really rough for me.
Wasn't fully
also.
present. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was rough for me to see my father, because my father used to be, he was taller than I. He was kind of a well-dressed guy. And, you know, so when I look him like that, it feels like, it was rough. So we started to do this. And by the 4 or 5 time, I can remember, he told me like, why do you want it? Why do you want to talk to me and have this dinner? Doesn't make any sense. He was trying to struggle with the idea, which I was doing it also. Like, well, actually, I'm not sure. So what I told him is like, well, I wanted to be with you. And the only thing that I wanted to make sure you understand is that I forgive you for everything you had done for me and my family. And that I will continue to forgive you for whatever things happen from here. And, you know, and he was in shock when he heard like that. He's like, doesn't make any sense. You know, I don't have money. I don't have anything. So you should not be expecting me to do that. And he said this, and I don't allow you to forgive me. What is the word you say? Like, I forbid it. I forbid it to forgive me. And he was mad because obviously our relationship at that time was more like a 2-man talking rather than the father and son, you know?
Yeah.
So I also get mad and I say, well, I don't care whatever you want to think about this. I already forgive you and I love you. And I'm doing this because I understand that's exactly what Jesus did for me. So this is it, to deal with that. And in that point, he just kind of was in shock. And then I think he releases, it's like he just started crying. And we have this moment of realizing that we both were experiencing the love of God in a way we couldn't kind of explain. And it was probably it is for sure in my ministry, the biggest thing that God had gave me the opportunity to experience with someone else.
Wow.
And then you shared kind of at the conclusion of our time together that for 2 years on every other Friday, you got to study with him and he came to know the Lord. But I wonder if in that park, in that moment, there was the whisper of Jesus with him just being like, in the same way to Lazarus, like in a loud voice, like, come out. Yeah. You know, if that was like, for each of us, we have that moment, you know, where it's like, and then take off the grave clothes, you know.
Set free. Yeah. Because actually when you forgive someone, what you're doing is just releasing that that person from being captured. Yeah. So that was an amazing experience. And the thing is that because we experienced that, I saw him getting better and better for those 2 years. Yeah. We studied the Bible. He accepted Christ in his heart. And actually, he reconnected a little bit with my sister and also with my brother and even my mother. And he started visiting, so he already knew where we were, and he had my phone, and kind of the things going well. He go back to the job because when I first met him, he was without job, without anything. But I see the transformation in his life, like he's getting back to his normal clothes and being sober for a long period of time and just wrestling with the word of God and just that. And in that, like this crescendo thing that was experienced, he passed away because of a heart attack in his office. Yeah. And work. Wow. So in that moment also feels like, okay. Yeah. What is that? It's a weird plan. You know, it's like I'm enjoying my father and I'm enjoying my relationship with him. But at the same time, I figured out facing the death of my father, the thing that sustained me, the thing that held me was the conviction that he already figured it out, his final destiny. And I was part of just seeing that, I was a witness of that. And for me, that gave me the peace that I needed just to go through these terrible moments of, dwelling, or just just going through this process of someone you love, grieving.
Yeah. So some of what I hear, just sort of as we come to a conclusion. Oh, by the way, we didn't get any direct questions for your sermon this week, but
it was clear.
It was clear. It was awesome. So when you encountered last week an invitation to preach in a different language and to prepare a message and do all this back and forth and like try and communicate to a different context, the gospel applies to that moment. And the gospel applies to that moment because, when I signed up for this whole faith thing with Jesus, it started from a place where I couldn't and he could. So why is it any different when it comes to a sermon on a Sunday morning or an invitation to drive across town and meet my Father or whatever it may be, however hard it sounds? I never was doing the thing anyway. It was always Jesus.
Yeah.
And so maybe for some of you out there, as you're listening and you might have a little bit of a nudge or a conviction to talk to someone, to forgive someone, to embrace Christ, whatever it may be, the same conditions are in place. The gospel says you can't. So whatever it is, no matter how hard it sounds, you already started from a place where he will do the heavy lifting. He will do the work, and he might restore something miraculously that you never expected, like we just heard. Yeah. Any final words for our listeners today?
No, just don't fear the gospel. Just live the gospel as simplest as you can, and also don't fear the ability and the opportunity that is for us to share. Like sometimes we miss the point that the Father is giving us such a privilege to share the gospel, and we are not doing it. We're showing up at the church, and we're celebrating, kind of having fun between us, but we are losing the opportunity to tell the gospel. And the gospel is really simple thing where Jesus call us from where we at in that dark, cold grave and call us out. And if he already called us, we should be living by him and for him without any fear of rejection. Because in the end, people will reject us.
Yeah.
In the work or in the politics field or in school or high school, it's like people will reject this. It's going to happen. And it's going to happen even more because you're a Christian. So don't fear those. No matter what they say or what they do, just go ahead and just be faithful to the gospel in a way that you live in it and also in a way that you share in that gospel.
Yeah.
And I think one final thing that we shared with our students over the midst of the Fusion Week was, we can trust in and have faith and abide in Jesus and have him as our model. These are some of the key concepts of our discipleship training. And then we can see in moments the fruit or impact of some of those things, or having the courage to rely on the Holy Spirit to have discussions with our friends, or to go on to Littleton High School or Heritage High School's campus and engage with those students and say the name of South Fellowship or Community.nexo or Christ or whatever it might be. And we might be able to see some of those things, but there's also the element of like the unseen, the way that God will continue to work, the way that those seeds can be planted and then grow unbeknownst to us. And I think that that's really beautiful, but also something that we should be reminded of, because when we're talking about being faithful and abiding in Christ and not having fear, or maybe it won't work out. Maybe it won't work out in front of us, maybe that invitation to a coworker or a friend or a family member is met with a no in the moment. And maybe they, continue to wrestle with the Spirit and they walk onto a church campus somewhere down the road or years away from that moment. We don't get to know all of those things, and that's quite all right. But I think that we're kind of like reminded of that in this season of just like, 16 or 25 years ago when we were 16, we had no clue that like we would be on this podcast together.
Yeah.
But God did. And those seeds, continue to grow and bear fruit in those ways. And so talking to, our high school students and their friends, just about the relationship that they have with Jesus and allowing spaces and environments for them to encounter Jesus in that way.
Yeah.
We don't know what that's going to look like, in
Sure.
the end. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would love if you can share the message that Gray being shared in social media. Do you already have it?
Yeah.
Because one of the kids from our student
Yeah.
ministry shared something in social media. He was a new believer in the group, and he have a challenge to connect socially with others and all that. When he had back from this trip, he shared something in social media that for sure for him, he must require a lot of bravery to do it. So I wanted John translated. So it's just to see like a little glimpse of what is happening also when we share and we push our students into experience gospel in a simple way, but also in a way that we can just continue to work with them.
Yeah.
Because the growth comes in our own lives.
Yeah,
as well,
and
too.
we also hopefully
Yeah.
some of the students here, I'm also experiencing that challenge in their life.
Yeah.
So he shared this upon returning right after they got back. And he said, after almost 2 years, the promise of a trip to the United States was finally fulfilled. It was a very beautiful and fun experience. Helping people and teaching Spanish classes helped me to socialize and also taught me the importance of helping others. Seeing people thank us for giving them the bare minimum that they deserve made me realize how much I want to help people. I'm very grateful to Sean for giving us the opportunity to have this trip and for allowing us to help people so that they could have something to eat. Thankful to South and thankful for our food bank is what he's referring to there. I'm also grateful to Community.Nexo for supporting me in everything and giving us the opportunity to meet the people from South Fellowship. After a week, the trip came to an end. I made new friendships and learned many things, but the most important one was that I was able to grow closer to God and realize how important it is to make the right decisions and how they will affect my future. The decision to accompany the friend that originally invited him to Nexo, one of my best friends, was on a youth group trip, turned out to be one of the best decisions I could have ever made, not only because of the trip, but because of the incredible people I met. And all that's left for me is to thank God and to wait for time to pass so I can see the people from South again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Some beautiful stories of the gospel and how it works in God's church around the world. And on that note, we'll let you guys go. I'm so glad we were able to film and record this bonus episode for the podcast. I hope it actually aligns so well. Like tonight we have Alpha
Nice.
and we're talking about Jesus.
Sure.
It aligns so well. So yeah, I'd encourage you to tune in again tomorrow. We will have that episode about the person of Jesus then. And in case you didn't know, Jesus is important to South Fellowship Church. So yeah. All right. Thank you all for tuning in.
Thanks.
Catch you later. Bye.